God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I am here. Reveal your purpose to me.
Exodus 3. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the backside of the desert, and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush, and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Draw not nigh hither. Put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters. For I know their sorrows, and I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land, and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come unto me, and I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppress them. Come now therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. And Moses said unto God, Who am I that I should go unto Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? And he said, Certainly I will be with thee, and this shall be a token unto thee, that I have sent thee. When thou hast brought forth the people out of Egypt, ye shall serve God upon this mountain. And Moses said unto God, Behold, when I come unto the children of Israel, and shall say unto them, The God of your fathers has sent me unto you, and they shall say to me, What is his name? What shall I say unto them? And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. And he said, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto you. And God said moreover unto Moses, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, The Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, hath sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. Go and gather the elders of Israel together, and say unto them, The Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, appeared unto me, saying, I have surely visited you, and seen that which is done to you in Egypt. And I have said, I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt, unto the land of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, unto a land flowing with milk and honey. And they shall hearken to thy voice, and thou shalt come, thou and the elders of Israel, unto the king of Egypt, and ye shall say unto him, The Lord God of the Hebrews hath met with us. And now let us go, we beseech thee, 3 days' journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. And I am sure that the king of Egypt will not let you go, no, not by a mighty hand. And I will stretch out my hand, and smite Egypt with all my wonders which I will do in the midst thereof. And after that, he will let you go.
All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Makakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. All right, and what I want to get into this morning, another morning of news and prophecy, and we're gonna continue on with just how the Lord is forcing Esau to go with his move. Okay, as we knew that the devil, all right, was going to have some plot twist, geared towards his new world order. All right, dealing with this war. Okay, so in the midst of this war, all right, this devil, he's going to try to get off, his new world order agenda. Okay, and the devil has a lot to do, man. So the devil is in scramble mode. Okay, he doesn't have much time. Time is not with this man; it's against him. Okay, prophecy is not with this man; it's against him. Okay, so we're going to see this man become frustrated. All right, aggravated. Okay, as the scriptures say. Matter of fact, let's start there before we even get into the rest of it. Let's go here to the book of Isaiah. All right, we'll start out here with this precept. All right, the book of Isaiah, I believe, is the 44th chapter. Okay, but what we're seeing, all right, the devil, okay, the pressure from prophecy is on him. Okay, so he has to go with his move. All right, so we can see another, lockdown in the making. Under the banner of energy crisis. Okay, last time it was a thing of health, but now, it's energy. Okay, and the devil, he has to ride this out. The devil got to come on with his move. Okay, so when you go into the scriptures, okay, Isaiah 45, now 44, Isaiah chapter 44, verse 24, it says, "This is what the Lord says, your Redeemer and Creator." When it says your Redeemer, it's speaking of the nation of Israel, and this time it's pertaining to the elect. Okay, there's a remnant that's going to be redeemed, okay, brought back to the Heavenly Father. Okay, we're going to be restored. We're going to get those new bodies. Okay, you're going to be restored to rulership. So there's a remnant that the Lord is getting ready to redeem, okay, in the midst of this judgment. Okay, it says, "I am the Lord who made all things." Okay, and see, this devil, he has pumped himself up, hyped himself up in this, in his kingdom. Okay, within this Edomite empire, he's magnified himself, to where people look at him as if Esau was the creator of all things. Okay, and that's why the Lord is going to make a major statement with this judgment, man, and show that Esau was just a mere man. Okay, a base man at that. Okay, it says, "I am the Lord who made all things. I alone stretched out the heavens. Who was with me when I made the earth?" Yeah, who was with him when he made the earth? Now we know, going back to Genesis, it was the Elohim, okay, which he commissioned, all right, his son Yahweh Shai, along with the rest of the sons of God, the Elohim, to create everything. Okay, but when he came up with the concept of, okay, existence, the earth, well, who was with him? No one. This is his concept that he came up with alone. Okay, and he had Yahweh Shai and the Elohim to, do the labor and bring these things into existence. Okay, but it's all the concept and idea of the Heavenly Father. This thing we call existence, man. Okay, and Esau Edom, he just a small, all right, he just a small character, okay, in the big picture, man, that's finna be X'd out. Okay, right now the Heavenly Father has the devil on the main stage to try to pull off this new world order just so the Most High can show his power on this demon, man. Okay, so when you keep reading verse 25, this the point. It says, "I expose the false prophets as liars." You see, I expose the false prophets as liars and make fools of fortune tellers, man. Okay, because you have, of course, the false prophets amongst, all right, our people, whether it's these churches or these false camps amongst, those that know that they're Israelites. Okay, but then you have Esau, even the biggest false prophet, man. Okay, because he's in his mind, he's going to bring about a technocracy, man, in his movies, okay, in his speeches, and his the wealth, the World Economic Forum, and all these different platforms where he's speaking about what's coming next. Okay, what he's getting ready to do. All right. Well, the Lord is only going to allow this man to get so far. All right. Before this man is destroyed, before this whole system, this whole infrastructure, everything that this man established, from democracy to skyscrapers to data centers, they're all going to be destroyed, man. So forth and so on. You see? So this man pushes, himself as if, he can speak things before they happen. No, you can only speak what the Lord, all right, this devil can only show what the Lord wants to happen. Okay? Because if the Lord doesn't want it to happen, it's not going to be. And this devil fantasy of this technocracy, man, is going to be, all right, it's going to be confounded. Okay? So I expose the false prophets as liars and make fools of fortune tellers. I cause the wise to give bad advice, all right, thus proving them to be fools, man. Because the more we get into the devil trying to establish this, man, the more we see that this devil is a goddamn fool, man. To even try to pull this off, man. Esau is a goddamn fool, man. Okay? But then when you go to verse 26, it said, but I will carry out the predictions of my prophets. You see that? You see, so what the prophets are saying, that's what's going to stand, because we're saying the will of the Lord. We're expounding on the will of the Lord. When we prophesy, these are the words, Lord's in our mouth. Okay, when we teach, well, we teach with the words of Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai in this book, the Bible. Okay, we're just expounding, okay, on prophecies written, okay, ages ago, man. Okay, that are coming true, that are coming to pass in this time, and it just shows the power of Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai that he is. Because the thing that's being shown, our power is showing that he is. Okay? He's showing without a shadow of a doubt that he is, man. He always was, he always is, and always will be. Okay? So the prophets are just a mouthpiece. We're a vessel used to speak the Lord's will into existence, man. Okay? It said, but I will carry out the prediction of my prophets. But them, it says, by them I say to Jerusalem, people will live here again. Yeah, the true people going back to their land. So this devil, he's trying to push for this greater Israel project, these small hats, these Amalekites, especially these elite bankers. They think they're going to make, Israel this super state. Okay? They think they're going to make, the state of Israel this superpower in the earth that runs the earth, and they can fake like, they was always the chosen people, that they're going to prevail in this war, and show that they was always the chosen people. Okay? But it's all going to fail. You see, it says, and to the towns of Judah, you will be rebuilt. I will restore all your ruins, man. And these nations are going into captivity, and they're going to build out infrastructure, man, starting with Jerusalem and branching out, man. Okay? We're going to have this land. We're going to have all this land. Okay? There was promised to us in the scriptures, and we're going to rule the earth in righteousness from that land. Okay? So with these devils, what they got on the agenda, that's not going to come to pass, man. Let's read this in the KJV. Verse 25 again in the KJV. Okay. So let's go here. All right. This is Isaiah. All right. Chapter 44 and 25 in the KJV. It says, they frustrated the tokens of the liars. Okay. So the Lord is frustrating this nigga's plans. All right. Everything that the devil intends on doing, well, is being frustrated by prophecy, man. Okay, and the things that the Lord is allowing the devil to do, it aligns with prophecy, man. You see, so the Lord got Esau. He's cutting off the ring. Prophecy is cutting off the ring for Esau, man, making it hard for this nigga to move. Okay, it says, and make him diviners mad. All right, and Esau, he's a diviner, enchanter. You see, his witchcraft, okay, is not going to get him out of this. His wealth, his enchantments, none of these things are going to get him out of this, man. His military, okay, nothing that he can beat with his own strength, okay. His own strength is not going to prevail, all right. And the strength given to him was given to him by the Most High. He's trying to fight with his maker. Esau was trying to fight with his maker, man. Okay, and we're seeing he's going to lose. Okay, he's trying to scribe with his maker, man, and he's fighting a losing battle. Okay, and it only gets worse for this devil, man. They're turning wise men backward and making their knowledge foolish, man, and making their knowledge foolish. Okay, so turning wise men backward, man. Now he's working against himself, man. Now everything Esau is beginning to do is backfire. Okay, and making their knowledge foolish, man. The knowledge, that the Lord allowed them to rule the earth with, well, now it's becoming foolish. Okay, and it was always foolish from the beginning, but now it's being exposed, man. Now it's working against him, man. Okay, so this devil, his days are numbered. Okay, literally, man. This man ain't got forever to try to do this, man. Okay, he's on the timer. All right, so let's go here. I want to get this and get this dealing with let's see. Yep. So let's just continue on and how this energy crisis is playing out. What these different leaders are saying. Okay, and these devils, they're getting ready to milk this, man. They got to. Okay, they got to, man. So these devils getting ready to milk this thing. Okay, to try to segue to the New World Order. All right, so let's let this play.
For the first time in U.S. history, the United States Postal Service is now adding a fuel charge to every package that you ship because, well, why else? The Iranian war. Fuel costs have jumped more than 30% since Israel's war with Iran broke out.
And you see how they're blaming everything on the Iranian war. Just like they did with the C-19. Everything was because of C-19. Every change that they wanted to make. Okay. So yeah, they gotta run with it. They gotta capitalize off this, man. And push this New World Order. So let's play this.
So now they will add this on top of your shipping cost. Imagine how, like, if you're a small business and you're shipping items on a regular basis, you're not Amazon, adding on this additional fuel charge on top of that. Then this morning, the Financial Times reporting U.S. inflation will surge to 4.2% on energy shock, warns the OECD. Fuel lines around the world are getting very long. We've been covering, of course, what's been happening in Slovenia, parts of Europe, Australia, Thailand, the Philippines. It's just getting worse and worse. Many countries have run out of petrol, gasoline, or have declared now a state of emergency. President Putin of Russia just declared that the energy shock from this Iran war is having a devastating effect around the world, just like COVID. Here was his statement just a short time ago. Watch.
That is escalating, and it's making a more and more significant contribution to the global situation today. And it's dealing a great damage to the global logistic supply chains, production chains, and entire industries of the fuel production, fuel refinery. Our industries are getting these heavy blows, and it's difficult to predict what happens next because of this.
So Putin also, through his diplomatic team, are issuing a damning message about this war, that we are about to face an energy crisis, the likes of which we've never seen before. You don't want to hear that. And that Europe is going to be begging Russia for oil and gas. Too bad one of your pipelines was blown up by the United States government. But here is Dmitriev. Listen.
Но наше предсказание очень четкое, что Европа и Британия будут умалять о российских энергоносителей, и Россия будет принимать соответствующие решения или их не принимать.
So it's really in their hands now. It's amazing how the tables have been turned, isn't it? Mike Adams is the founder of the Brighteon platforms, the Health Ranger. You might know him on X. I love following Mike on X because he just cuts through all of the BS and gets right to the heart of the matter. And Mike, great. Welcome back to the show. One of the areas you've been very focused on, of course, is fuel shortages, food shortages, and what the global impact of all of this is going to look like. Maybe you can just give us your 30,000-foot assessment before we get into more details.
Okay, sure. Great to join you again. Love your work. First of all, I would say that every major form of recognized abundance across our world comes from affordable, abundant energy. So energy is the primary driver of affordable food, which for many people translates into affordable families because you have to feed your kids in most countries, right? Hopefully. Also affordable transportation by plane or by car. So it's personal mobility, it's personal freedom. And food comes from energy. That's what a lot of people don't necessarily realize is how strongly every calorie of food that comes from a farm today is tied to energy inputs, and not just the fertilizer and the urea, which of course you've covered on your show, are now incredibly scarce because of what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz and with Trump's war on Iran, but also because of the fuel for transportation and the fuel for the tractors to do the planting and harvesting, et cetera. So food is extremely hydrocarbon intensive. In fact, farming is really more of a rearranging of hydrocarbons with the help of photosynthesis. That's what farming really is. And a lot of people didn't realize just how devastating this would be when the Strait of Hormuz is now constricted. And I just want to remind you, I'll turn it back to you, but the Strait of Hormuz was open before Trump launched this war by choice. So it was open. So not only did the United States, as you said, destroy the Nord Stream pipelines affecting Western Europe and their affordable, abundant energy from Russia, now Trump has effectively, indirectly closed the Strait of Hormuz through his actions. And now he's probably desperately trying to figure out how to get it open again. But that's where we are. Until the Strait of Hormuz reopens, the world will suffer dramatically, economically, and through food scarcity.
Mike, you make a great point. In fact, we had a senator just a short time ago on the floor of the Senate making that exact point about the Strait of Hormuz. Watch this.
Here's the problem. The strait was open before the war began. We are now seeking to solve a problem that we created. This is insanity. $2 billion is a lot of money. That's the minimum amount of money that is being spent every single day on this war. There are over a dozen families who are burying their loved ones in the United States, and there may be dozens more if this war continues.
Thousands more. Okay. You see, and you see how, everyone is looking at America as a problem, man. All right. Now, we know these senators and congressmen, they do a lot of acting, to, make it seem as if they care. Okay. But you have a real sentiment in the world, that they're looking at America as a problem, the way that they went about doing this. Okay. And then the fact that, all right, America is beginning to lose control. Okay. Of course, like the elites, they're always going to be in a position to manipulate. But what's happening, prophecy is interfering with what the devils got going on, to where now they're having to go at this thing full throttle. Okay. And they're having to try to milk this as much as possible, man. Okay. There's some things that they intentionally want to happen, then there's things happening that they ain't intending to happen, man. Okay. You have to understand the elites are not all powerful. They're not in full control. Okay. They're wearied in their counsel, the scriptures say. Okay. So they have some things working for them according to their agenda. All right. And they wanted a global reset. okay? But the Lord done shifted things, okay, in a way that aligns with all prophecy, man. Okay? Not just devil agenda, but prophecy. So within prophecy, he has, one more move, and that's the MOTB. So prepare for this devil, to maximize on, all right, the circumstances at hand to bring about a new world order, okay, and to make this MOTB mandatory. All right, so let's play this.
Prices are skyrocketing, not just in America, but all across.
Someone in the chat says Chris Murphy's an idiot. In many ways, I agree with you, but what he's saying is true. Now, did Congress actually vote to end the war escalation? No. So we can't give Congress too much credit.
Right.
You wrote about how, the mobilization of ICE, the strategic closures of the TSA, and now the looming fuel and food shortages are not disparate things. You said these are visible threads of a deliberate, premeditated pattern, one that is weaving a trap to the American people. And you said that it will lead to national lockdowns of movement, food, and fuel. So can you play that out, please?
Yeah, that's where this is headed. Clearly, in my view, it's the same pattern as COVID, but now with a different justification. So already many countries are suffering so-called energy lockdowns. You mentioned some of them in the intro, but also, for example, in South Korea, you're only allowed to drive on certain days of the week if you're a government employee based on your vehicle license plate. In Australia, hundreds of petrol stations have run out now, and it's not clear when they're going to be replenished. What's going to come is government-controlled delivery of food and fuel. And this will encompass Americans, especially as prices get much higher and more job displacement takes place because of the AI displacement. And you just saw a humanoid robot walking around the White House. That's also part of the plan. That's why I have the AI background here today behind me. But as you have all this displacement, the public will scream for universal basic income, but the UBI will be tied, in my view, and Catherine Austin Fitts talks about this, and she's excellent on this subject. It'll be tied to a government-controlled CBDC that allows you to purchase a certain amount of food, but builds in the scarcity or the quota allowances through that digital control grid. And the same thing will happen with fuel, and also the same thing will happen probably with the number of kilowatt hours of energy that you're allowed to consume as a household. And interestingly, one of the off-ramps to that is to have your own off-grid solar.
So these devils, they want to use this opportunity to bring in the technocracy, man, this control grid. Okay? So they want to use what's happening, all right, and turn it into, all right, a control grid. Okay? And these devils had these things in the making. Their intent from launching this war, was to establish a global reset. Okay, so their whole intent from the beginning was a global reset. All right, now in the war, they did want to topple, the Iranian government. Okay, they did want to have complete control of the Strait. Okay, but the fact that the Strait is closed down, they still can do what they want to do. Okay, which is bring about a reset. Okay, they want the dollar to crash. They want the global economy to crash. They want suffering. All right, they want rationing. They want people desperate. Okay, so they want a control grid, man. All right, to the elites, it's all about control. Now you have, Trump and his cronies, doing money grabs and manipulating the markets. Where he speaks to, make the market drop. He'll announce, as if there's some type of peace deal in the making to make the markets drop, and him and his underlings, all right, the flunkies of the elites, they can, do a money grab. See, but the elites don't need a money grab. The elites want control. Okay, they need a whole new system rolled out. They need a technocracy in place. Okay, that's what the elites are after. I say Trump and his cronies, because they're they're middle management. Okay, so on their level, this is a chance for them, the elites allowing them to do their little money grab. Okay, in the midst of this. Okay, but ultimately these devils on a control grid, put in place. Okay, so they're going to manipulate this situation as much as possible to bring that about. Okay, so let's play this.
Power system and an EV, which is funny because Trump is becoming the world's greatest EV salesman now.
Right.
As more people are buying EVs. Go
Yeah.
figure.
Well, you bring up a great point. This whole push, like I couldn't help but thinking when we're seeing this TSA move, right? The long lines at the airports, all of this is tied together on these austerity measures. And just, I love this CNN headline here, Mike, from Asia. Asia embraces austerity, right? Like Asians are.
Let me fast forward to here about the 17-minute mark.
Strongly shut down. And again, that's why EV sales are skyrocketing in Australia, right?
Talking about the EV, and that's another thing they want too. They want people in these electric vehicles. Okay, these electric vehicles, they say they're skyrocketing. That's what they want. Let's easily control those electric vehicles, man. It's all about merging into a control system. Okay, it's all about merging into a system of control. Okay, so this rise in EVs, electric vehicles, okay, is playing into the hands of the elites, man. Okay, because it's easily to sync an electric vehicle to the grid, to the digital grid. Okay, will just give them complete control, okay, of your going and coming and going. Okay, along with a device in your hand. Okay, it's gonna get to the point you're gonna need a device to start your car. Okay, because they can manipulate everything that's digital. Just do updates. Okay, and now you don't have disqualification no more. Your social credit, it didn't, you didn't have enough social credit for an upgrade, so you can't travel here. Your car won't crank for this. There's all type of. It's a big child. He's a big child, man. Okay, the New World Order is childish, man. What this nigga is trying to do, man. Okay, this is what a child would do in power. Okay, so let's play this
now, which is extraordinary. But to answer your question, it doesn't take much to lead to a collapse scenario because our modern civilization is far more fragile than people thought. Nobody thought about the fact that so much of the world's abundance and food went through one narrow strait, 20 kilometers wide or whatever it is, that can be closed off very simply just by a credible threat from Iran to say we will harass ships. Therefore, no one's allowed to pass unless you pay in yuan or you pay the toll or whatever. So our civilization is very fragile. We stand on the verge of a planetary scale collapse of the system that has kept 8 billion people alive.
I want to ask about the petrodollar because it's a shaky system as it is. It was negotiated through backdoor negotiations after we promised OPEC leaders we wouldn't do it. And now we are collapsing it ourselves by giving allies and non-allies, all other countries, an incentive to trade outside the petrodollar because we cannot be trusted. What do you think will happen to the U.S. dollar? The petrodollar allows us to spend and rack up debt. That's the reason we can do it. So what happens when that collapses? We will have to feel the nearly $40 trillion in debt we've got. That sounds horrific for the world we're handing off to our kids. What do you think of that domino effect that I'm laying out here?
You're exactly right. You just described it. The repatriation of the inflationary effects of fiat currency creation will be devastating to American consumers. We're going to be living in impoverishment across the United States of America.
and see, America has been able to cheat the system with this fiat currency. Okay, with this petrodollar. All right, but they're collapsing the petrodollar so they can bring about a new currency, which is the CBDC. So this is a major transition that's going to cause extreme poverty in America, man. Okay, because either and they can collapse it, just go ahead and collapse it. All right, or the dollar can not be the reserve currency. It can lose that status, then collapse. Okay, But we know within the intentional collapse of this dollar, okay, inflation is going to go through the roof. It's going to go into hyperinflation, man. Okay, we're talking about millionaires becoming poor overnight. Okay, because of hyperinflation. Okay, so they're dismantling the dollar. This is a controlled demolition by the elites to dismantle the dollar. Okay, which is dismantling the whole global economy. All right, and we're going to see the rest of the world, feel the effects first. Okay, and that last collapse, okay, is going to be the American dollar. Okay, which is going to completely crash everything. Okay, and that's when things are going to go haywire. Things are going to get bad. They're going to get worse. They continue to get worse. All right, but then when this thing collapses, it's going to go haywire, man. So as we can see, the war is only escalating with no end in sight, man. Okay, and you're talking about a month or two at this pace. Things going at this pace, man. It's gonna look different out here, man. Okay, so let's play this a little more.
And also countries that are already struggling financially, such as Japan, are about to offload hundreds of billions of dollars of U.S. treasuries as a means of their own financial survival because of what's happening there. Trump has, in the meantime, punished our allies like Taiwan through tariffs that are punitive, as well as 301 sanctions and exporting microchips, for example, to the United States and making them affordable. And then they get punished for excess production. What is that? And India gets punished for purchasing oil from Russia. So the U.S. is being a bad neighbor on the world stage under Trump. And sadly, the American people will suffer as more and more countries choose alternatives to the petrodollar. That's where this is headed.
And so with this austerity, do you see these lockdowns on a large scale where you talked about EV, the electric car piece of this? I can't help but think that this push, it's all intentional, right? This plan has been in place for decades to move us in this way, in this 2030 agenda, and get us to stay home, use electric energy instead of gasoline, ration how much we're allowed to eat, tell us that we're not allowed to eat beef, all of these things. So it seems obvious. It seems obvious, I think, to the three of us sitting here. I guess what comes next will we see wide scale power disruptions? What is your sense of looking at this, playing this out, sort of gaming this out, I guess, on a chessboard?
Well, as you know, I believe that the big picture is the widespread replacement of human cognition and with either AI agents on the cognition side and AI-powered robots, which we just saw introduced again, with Melania there in the White House.
Yeah,
and even she was saying that these can basically replace teachers, which is technically true, but it shows you what they are up to. As AI cognition gains in technology, and Jensen Huang recently said that he believes that it's already achieved AGI. I have jokingly responded and said AGI is not a very high threshold because the average human worker is not that smart. So, there's still a lot more upside to go on that. But robotics is making a lot of advances. And when you begin to replace labor, which will be a gradual thing, it'll happen over the next 10 years. It will take time. Then the question becomes, what is our government's plan for us as human beings when we cannot meaningfully participate in this economy? And I believe that these...
And you're going to be deemed useless, because what this AI is doing, is making, people useless. All right, and there's another agenda this devil has with this war. He wants to depopulate, so he wants bombs going all over the place, okay? He wants civilian infrastructure being destroyed. He wants, essential infrastructure being destroyed. He wants suffering, man. Okay, because the devil, he wants these elites. Okay, they want to bring a suffering so they can present the new world order to the survivors as the way to go. Okay, so they think that they can control global chaos. They think they control the third war where all these nations fighting at one time. They think they can control that. okay, turn it off when they get ready and establish a new world order. Okay. So what we're going to see, man, with these devils, man, all right, is things go on. All right, they're gonna have to come with more drastic measures to hurry this thing about, man. Okay, because the Lord gonna continue to flame the fires to this war. Okay, and it's gonna go beyond, all right, the control of the devil, and he just gonna have to go with his move. You're gonna have to keep going with his move, man. All right, because remember, prophecy is in the driver's seat, but we know the intents of these devils. Okay, and they have a depopulation agenda as well. Okay, so everything that the devil wants to do, as long as it's aligned with prophecy, he's going to be able to do it. Okay, but this fantasy of, you know, establishing the technocracy and extending his birthright forever, man, that's going to be destroyed, man. Okay, and once he gets to implement this MOTB, that's it, man. That's his last. All right, that's his last card. That's the last card in his hand, is making that MOTB mandatory. And he has no more cards after that, man. Okay, so let's play this.
Fuel and food lockdowns, scarcity, and rationing are just the opening chapters of what they have in store for us.
What do you see over the next week to 2 weeks? Because we're really at the beginning of this. We haven't even felt the ripple effects yet. Like we're using up stuff left in the pantry, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Americans in particular are in a much more generous situation compared to people in the Philippines or other countries. I was just checking, my staff orders bulk food supplies from farmers in America. We are still able to order food that was grown last season. And my understanding is that at least half of American farmers got the fertilizer that they needed for this current planting season. The real question for America is going to be the next planting season, late summer or fall. That's where we're going to see a lot of fertilizer scarcity in place if we don't get the Strait of Hormuz open between now and then. So America itself has more of a buffer than almost every other country in the world, other than perhaps Russia, or probably just Russia. But a lot of other countries are going to suffer. And as they bid up fuel prices, many American oil companies will end up selling American oil to other countries because they make more on that. And that will drive up prices domestically for the American consumer. So price increases, but not Mad Max yet.
Yeah, it's weird to me, as you know.
Yeah. So as we've been saying, America has that buffer. All right, because America has had so much abundance and so much stuff flow to America. All right, and then America is somewhat energy sufficient. Okay, but still in all right, these devils, okay, they're going to manipulate and speed up, okay, the suffering that's going to come to America, man, because you still have, because this is just one scenario, with the energy crisis. Okay, we say you still can have major false flag, you still can have major cyber attacks, grid allergies. Okay, there's still a lot, that can happen. Any day, man, any day can go haywire. Any day, man, one event, okay, in this atmosphere, man, can really turn everything haywire, man. Okay, so we're watching as these things unfold, and I want to go here because another thing too, all right, this AI is using a lot of resources, man. So there can be blackouts just based off, the AI alone, because AI is a major strain on the grid. Okay, so let's play a little bit of this.
Go to AI blackouts. I've got a guest coming in just one moment. Some breaking news on this, by the way. According to Brian Metzger, as of just this morning, Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are planning to introduce the, quote, AI Data Center Moratorium Act at a 4 p.m. press conference over on Capitol Hill. So expect that to come down later today. But why might they be pursuing this? Well, one reason, first element, we can toss up on the screen here per Tom Winter over at NBC News. Electrical grid, this is according to his NBC News report, quote, electrical grid at increasing risk of blackouts due to surging demand. And he asked, could there be blackouts in NYC? How serious is the threat nationwide? The fact that that question is even being asked, Ryan, is all the evidence you need for why populists on the left might be considering introducing a moratorium on the data centers.
Now, look.
So a moratorium, just to look at it real quick, a moratorium is a temporary suspension, pause, or legal authorization to delay an activity or obligation such as debt payments or construction. All right, so they're trying to put a moratorium on data centers, which that's just a farce, man. Okay, these devils ain't trying to do that. They just putting it out there. Remember, these politicians are actors, man. They're acting like they care. Okay, and they don't. The Democrats don't have no power. All right, the government doesn't have no power when it comes to the agenda of the elites. Okay, the American government is fully bought and paid for by the elites. Okay, but they push these things out there and push it out like, they're against, these data centers because these data centers have a bad reputation, man. Okay, for destroying the environment, destroying, the noise and, the pollution. Okay, people's health. Okay, so they have a bad rep. All right, and these devils, they're gonna keep throwing these data centers up, man. Okay, which is gonna be a major strain on the grid. And this devil, in his attempt to play the Most High, man, he doesn't care about death, mass death, mass blackouts. Okay, he's all about his mind is geared towards establishing this new world order, man, by any means necessary. Okay, so let's see. Let's just play a little bit more of this. A couple more.
Forward to people asking their phones, Grok, is it true that I'm in a blackout caused by you?
That is so dark. That is so dark. Let's take a look actually at this video from an interview that was done in Kentucky really recently. It was making the rounds. This is a Kentucky family being interviewed. I think this was the local news about a data center. Let's roll it.
If it's my way, I'll stay and hold and feed a nation. 26 million doesn't mean anything.
Some people might find it hard to understand how Delcia Bear can turn away a $26 million offer to buy some of her land until you spend a little time with her walking the dirt road she grew up on and in the house her daddy built.
My grandfather and great-grandfather and a whole bunch of family has all lived here for years, paid taxes on it, fed a nation off of it.
So what do you say to the people who are in town that say, hey, this is going to bring jobs, this is going to bring economic prosperity?
I say they're a liar and the truth ain't in them, is what I say. It's a scam.
For Delcia, scam or not, she...
Auntie says a scam. And these devils are being called out, man. They buy their land and they sell up their data center on their land, man. It's going to ruin everything around their land, man. Their noise, all their construction, man. Okay? So you have folks with a little integrity out here, man, to turn down $26 million, man. So you have, but see, it's going to come to a point, man, where you devils not going to be asking. They just going to go take it. Then they just going to be unalive. It's going to be so much unalive. And, they're just going to be taken, man. Okay? The Lord gonna stop this nigga, man. Okay? The Lord gonna intervene and stop this nigga, man. Because this is pure wicked what this nigga is trying to do to the earth, man. This is pure wickedness, man. Okay? And if you're okay with it just a little bit, man, you're gonna get judged with this nigga, man. Let's play this a little more.
She says she's connected to her home like Scarlett O'Hara was in Gone with the Wind.
As long as she was attached to that land, her spirit never would die. And that's the exact same thing for me right here. As long as I'm on this land, as long as it's feeding me, as long as it's taking care of me, there's nothing that can destroy me if I've got this land.
Yeah, so, you got this devil, he's trying to get all the land and set up these data centers. He want to do it in all these rural areas. All right, to destroy the environment because he wants to destroy farming. He wants farming out the way, man. All right, and that's why the Lord just finna stop this nigga, man. Okay, Isaiah chapter 2, verse 17, it says, "And the loftiness of man shall be bowed down, and the haughtiness of men shall be made low." Yeah, the Lord finna begin to break this nigga down, man. Okay, because this nigga has got too proud and too beside his goddamn self, man. Okay, and the Lord alone, Yahweh Bashim Shai, shall be exalted in that day, and the idols he shall utterly abolish, and they shall go in the holes of the rocks and in the caves of the earth, for fear of the Lord and for glory of his majesty, when he arises, all right, to shake terribly. Okay, so like it said, for the fear of the Lord, for the glory of his majesty, when he arises to shake terribly the earth, man. When he arises to shake terribly the earth, man, the Lord's going to shake the earth, man. Okay? Yahweh Bashim Shai is finna shake the earth with judgment, man. All right? And this devil, which he made AI an idol, is going to be abolished, man. Okay? Everything that this man is trying to do is getting ready to be abolished, man. Esau is done. Okay? The Lord got this nigga mapped out, man. Esau is finished. Okay? And all all Esau is doing is running to his judgment, man. All right, and these devils causing all this shit in the earth, all this war and chaos, and these niggas gonna run to the rocks and the caves, man. Goddamn cowards, man. Okay, you so bold and proud, you know, to try to undermine the Most High, and then this nigga gonna run to the caves, man. These bunkers, these underground cities, man, that's decked out, man. All right, and the Lord gonna snatch that nigga from under them, man. All right, and they are going to captivity, hardcore bondage, man. Rigorous captivity, man. Okay, Isaiah 2:20, in that day a man shall cast his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which they made each one for himself to worship, to the moles and to the bats, man. Yeah, all this AI shit gonna be worthless, man. It's not gonna prevent judgment. Okay, it's not gonna prevent Yahweh Shai, man. So all that all that AI shit gonna be worthless, man. AGI, ASI, whatever nigga talk, whatever degree he think he gonna get to with this AI, man, which is a big fraud. Okay, it's gonna be worthless, man. It said to go into the clefts of the rocks and into the tops of the ragged rocks, for fear of the Lord and for glory of his majesty, when he arises to shake terribly the earth, man. Yahweh Shai. See, when Yahweh Shai show up, man, see all this pride gonna be brought low. All this, being exalted and, exhausted in the earth gonna be brought low. Okay? When Yahweh Shai really open up in this place, man. You see, that's why verse 22 says, "What cease he from men whose breath is in his nostrils, for wherein is he to be accounted of?" Yeah, Esau is a man, okay, who breathes in and out his nostrils like everyone else, man. Okay? And the Lord finna reduce this nigga to nothing in the earth, man, to a slave. Okay? So that's the point, Lord will. All right, you brothers. All right, and you sisters edified once again. I'm gonna give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Kakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS, rule well, teach well, being great example to our younger brothers, and peace and blessings salutations to the hopeful. Shalom.